Shalom. Before I begin, I would like to give all praises and honor and glory to our Heavenly Father, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Racha Kadash. Double honors to the apostles, elders, and bishops of the Great Millstone who rule and teach well. Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahushai, Barakatham, peace and blessings, salutations to you, sincere Akim, pushing this gospel to the four corners of the earth, diligently laboring in His truth, in all righteousness, diligence, and sincerity, and to the few sincere Aquath, listening and learning as well. To you, I say Shalom. So these devils are drawing the world out to war, okay, as is prophesied in Jeremiah 49:20, that the least of the flock shall draw them out. And they're not going to stop. These devils are pushing harder and harder, and it's even more profound now because the world don't believe the narrative about what Satan Yahoo has put out there. Okay, that this is about fighting terror, that this is about ridding the Holy Land of enemies of the state of Israel. Okay, the world knows that that's some bullshit. You see, there was a video, I guess, with a Chinese PM. I saw yesterday that I think it was a Israeli. I'm not sure what his position was, but he was definitely from the state of Israel. He was representing them, and he was talking to a Chinese representative, probably the PM. And he was going on about, we need to fight terror, and we need to rid the land of Hamas and all this, and the Chinese PM was laughing at laughing in this dude's face because he knows it is some BS. All right. That old tired narrative of, we're fighting terror, which is, this is what these devils always do. All right. They did the same thing with the 9/11 event. They did the same thing when it came to going into Afghanistan and Iraq, and these different nations in which it was rich in oil, rich in opium and all these other things, right? They always use the justification of fighting terror when in fact they're the terrorists. You see? They're the real terrorists going into these other lands, bringing the terror to these people, man. But then they're able to gaslight you into believing, we're the victims. Everyone is coming against us, but you goddamn devil. Why you think everybody's coming against you, man? Because you're a cancer, man. Like, everywhere that you go, everywhere that they go, these devils, all they bring is chaos and violence, okay? But because they're in the power seat, they're able to push this BS propaganda out to the world, But we're in a time where that's not working no more. See, we're in a time where the enchantments of Esau, Edom are not working like how they did in the past. And why? Because ultimately the spirit of Yahweh Ba'ashem Shai is revealing these devils on a global scale. Just go on TikTok, okay, which now TikTok has been taken over by the small hats, so more than likely the videos that are up condemning the small hats for what they're doing are going to be taken down very soon, as well as our videos, you see? But the simple fact of it is that the Lord is revealing these devils in His time, and they can't hide themselves no more. Okay, as it says in Obadiah, that the Lord has made Esau, Edom small among the nations. They are greatly despised, man. The world hates these devils, and the Lord is setting it up to where all nations are pretty much going to come against the small hats and root them out of their land. All right, and hey, it's been a long time coming because this dude Netanyahu, since he's been on the October 7th campaign, he been going hard, and the world see that what he's doing, starving people out, deleting men, women and children, which I saw another statistic that majority of the population of Gaza is under 50. Okay, so it's mostly like, younger people over there, you know what I'm saying? But, that's who he's killing off. He's not, deleting terrorists. He's not going after, Hamas and, which, we already know that Hamas and all these other different entities, ISIS, and I forget the name of the other one. But all these different T groups that are out there, they were created by the small hats. And that October 7th event was a false flag for them to go up in there and do what you see them doing now. to commit a mass genocide. Okay, say it like that. That's what's going on. It's a mass culling of the population of that land. And everywhere these devils go, they've done the same thing. It's no different than what they did in Europe. It's no different than what they did when they went to Africa. It's no different than what they did when they went to the Americas, all over the earth, Australia, Asia, you name it. It's the same playbook that they run every single time, man. But they can't run it no more. And this is why now, the Lord got a spirit on these nations to now rise up against the tyranny. So I don't want to ramble on no more. If we want to check out this video by Satan Yahoo, okay, because he's pretty much accusing foreign leaders of siding with the enemy. You see, but these devils are about to find out real soon that they can't play that victim card no more. That now it's going to be time to answer for their crimes. See, let's check this out.
יש לי מסר ברור לאותם מנהיגים שמכירים במדינה פלסטינית לאחר הטבח הנורא ב7 באוקטובר.
Which the so-called massacre of October 7th, that was set up. And the receipts have already came out on that. I'm not going to show it on here because, we kind of got to be careful of what we put up because these devils are, cracking down on the videos and, and pretty much anything that's anti-small hat. Now they're, crunching down on that. So, you can look these things up on your own, man. But the receipts are out there that October 7th event was a false flag, that it was a black swan, okay, to justify them going in there and ethnically cleansing the land. That's what that's all about. And these devils set it up.
אתם מעניקים פרס עצום לטרור. ויש לי מסר נוסף עבורכם. זה לא יהיה. לא.
So you hear what he's saying? He's saying, look, for all you nations out there that want to side with the Palestinians and recognize a Palestinian state, he said it's not going to happen. So what scenario are we walking into now? We're walking into a scenario where it's about to be the small hats against the whole world. You see? Because just last week, there was reports and articles coming out that Saudi Arabia, that now they linking up. They looking to link up with all the Muslim nations that are over there, linking up with Iran, linking up with Turkey, and all those Muslim nations that are round about the small hats, because the way that they're looking at it, because we gotta keep in mind that these small hats have a greater Israel project, right? So Gaza is just the beginning, all right? They're not going to stop in Gaza. They're eventually, according to the outline of the plan, they're going to look to eventually eradicate all the Muslim nations that are over there out of that land so they can take over the whole of the so-called Middle East, which is really Western Asia. Okay, so this is a greater agenda at play here. And these Muslim nations, Ishmael can see where it's going. Because them devils over there, they're ruthless, man. They not giving a damn about nothing. They not respecting nobody's borders. They not respecting life, period. Like, they just like, man, to hell with everybody. We gonna go for ours. And if you in the way, then you gonna get steamrolled. That's how these devils are moving right now. So Ishmael is looking like, man, shit. Once they done with Gaza, they gonna come for us. So let us, come and get ourselves together. Prepare for the inevitability of what they know is coming, which is these small hats, align with America, waging war against the world.
תקום מדינה פלסטינית ממערב לירדן. במשך שנים אני מנעתי את הקמתה של מדינת טרור זו מול לחצים אדירים, גם מבית וגם מן החוץ. עשינו זאת בנחישות ועשינו זאת בתבונה מדינית. לא כל שכן. הכפלנו את ההתיישבות היהודית ביהודה ושומרון ונמשיך בדרך זו.
See, he said that we will continue on this path. So they have no plan on stopping. And I don't hear him, really going in about Hamas and all this and that, because Hamas was nothing more than a boogeyman that they set up in order for them to justify themselves. See, because if they just come out and say, yeah, but we want to ethnically cleanse the land, then of course there would have been immediate backlash, you know. But because of the whole teist narrative, you know, in the beginning, they was getting on with it. But now it's kind of like, okay, well, what's really going on? Because it's been what that happened in what October 7th, 2023, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been, you know, damn near 2 years now that war has been ongoing. And you mean to tell me that after, you know, almost 2 years later, you still haven't eradicated Hamas out of that land? But you over there blowing up schools, right? You over there destroying hospitals, you know? You over there blowing up people's homes and decapitating children and having men get raped by dogs in these IDF camps. Yeah, all that stuff is going on, man. They got dogs over there that are trained to SA Palestinian prisoners. And there's receipts out there on that as well. So these devils are committing all type of atrocities and war crimes. And furthermore, he can't stop, because the moment that he does stop, that's when he's going to be brought up on his crimes, and that's going to be the end of his regime. So he has to keep these wars going, man. All right. But the fact that he keeping these wars going, that's only, you know, putting the battery in the back of these Muslim nations to come against his ass. And ultimately, it's not going to end well. That's why you got all of them small hats now that are leaving the land. You know, they're looking to get out of there, which furthermore shows you that that's not the fulfillment of the promise. Okay, that them people over there, they're not the real Israelites. Okay, that, you know, those are imposters, man. Okay, because as you know, as the scriptures say, it's prophesied that when we get back in our land, that number one, that the nations would learn war no more, that the earth would be at peace, and you know, it would be a righteous government that's going to be set up. You see none of that. Okay, all them devils have known since they've gotten over there in 1948 is a war. And as a matter of fact, there was a war the very night that they established the state of the small hats. All right, so clearly they don't fit the prophecy. The world knows it, and this is why. Matter of fact, let me get that scripture real quick. Job 20:27. All right. Because now, see, the Lord got a spirit on these nations, man. You know, even within their own ranks, the truth is coming out. You got whistleblowers coming out and pretty much saying that, look, this whole fighting Hamas and Gaza situation is all based in falsehood, man. Okay, that's not what's going on. That, you know, them small hats are over there blatantly committing a mass culling. All right, and it's not justified by any means. So this is Job 20:26. It says, all darkness shall be hid in his secret places. A fire not blown shall consume him. It shall go ill with him that is left in his tabernacle. Verse 27, the heaven shall reveal his iniquity, and the earth shall rise up against him. The increase of his house shall depart, and his goods shall flow away in the day of his wrath. This is the portion of a wicked man from Yahweh, and the heritage appointed unto him by Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Okay, so verse 27 say that the heavens shall reveal his iniquity. So these devils, and you know, not just Amalek, you know, although they are being exposed at a very high level because they're the chief of all the nations, and especially of Edom. Okay, they're the top nation amongst Edom, or the top tribe amongst Edom, should I say, right? But there's all kind of information coming out on social media, you know, independent news platforms and things of that nature that's pretty much outing them for the crimes that they're committing. And this is why they've pretty much taken over the social media now. And, you know, very soon they're going to start locking people up and criminalizing anybody that speaks against the small hat state, you know. So the heaven is indeed revealing these devils' iniquity, and now the earth is rising up against them. Okay, you really have the whole world is about to go to war with these devils, man. I mean, when you listen to what this dude is saying, he's saying that, look, basically in so many words, none of y'all are going to stop us. All right, we on a mission, we got a plan, and we'll be damned if anybody tries to get in our way. All right, we'll steamroll you too. just like we are them Palestinians. But you see, this is how the devil is getting down, man. See, and ultimately the Lord got them in His spirit because this is ultimately leading up to their destruction. Okay.
המענה לניסיון האחרון לכפות עלינו מדינת טרור בלב ארצנו, המענה הזה יינתן לאחר שובי מארצות הברית. תמתינו.
Yeah, so there you have it. Just wanted to bring that video out. Then so I went to chat and I did this, right? I said, how many nations as of September 2025 have recognized Palestinian statehood? All right, because you have you even got some EU nations, I think UK, Ireland, France, just to name a few, are recognizing the Palestinian state. Okay, and this is also causing division within the House of Esau and friction even amongst NATO and the EU, because you have some NATO EU states that are for recognizing the Palestinian state. I'm not sure if America is, more than likely not, because they're backing, the small hats. But you have division amongst the House of Esau, so they're not completely united on recognizing Palestinian statehood, man. So the fact that Netanyahu was out there saying what he's saying, of course, America, he's, Trump is going to stand by Satan Yahoo, all right? But you have NATO and the EU that's divided. So that's also leading up to, let's get that real quick, Revelation 17, to where there's going to be basically NATO and the EU is going to disband, and they're going to shoot their, they're going to shoot their missiles at America. All right, so this is Revelation. Let's see, we start up. We'll start at 15. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest where the whore sitteth. Now the whore is referring to America, Babylon the Great, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues, because America is known as what? The great melting pot, where you can pretty much find every nation of people within this land. Verse 16 is the point. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast. Now the 10 horns goes into NATO and the EU, okay, being those original European, so-called European states, all right, that made up the Western Roman Empire before they fell. Then they came back during the Renaissance, and this is pretty much the same territory today. Okay, the countries of Britain, UK, France, Spain, Portugal, Germany, all those states that are over there that make up the EU, that was the original Western Roman Empire. Okay, and they're all back today in this new alliance, which makes up the conglomeration of the beast system. All right, so the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore. The whore, again, is America, Babylon the Great. So you see, according to this verse, that there's going to be a separation, okay, that there's going to be enmity or hatred put between the 10 horns and America, the whore. And what's going to happen? It shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Okay, so these nations at some point, which we're definitely in those times to where these prophecies are going down. But at some point, given the history in recent years, especially since 2022 with the whole onset of the Ukraine war, there's been a lot of friction, like a lot of back and forth, a lot of negative energy between America and its vassal states, which is the EU nations. Okay, so the scriptures say it shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Then that entails thermonuclear fire. Okay, to where these EU nations, they're gonna not follow America no more because of all of the heinous, atrocious acts that Israel is doing. So they're gonna separate from America in the support of these false wars, and they're gonna side with the BRICS nations, and they're gonna shoot their nukes over to America and burn this place up, and that's gonna be that proverbial lake of fire, okay, that's gonna be in this land, okay, because the whole land of America is gonna be nothing but ashes and fire, when the Lord is done with it, Okay, why is this going to happen? Verse 17, for Yahweh had put in their hearts to fulfill his will and to agree and give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of Yahweh Bashman Shai shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth, and that's America. All right, so when you go back to chat right here, right? So they said as of September 2025, 147 out of the 193 UN member states have officially recognized the state of Palestine. So see, as we read in Job 20 and 27, the heavens shall reveal his iniquity and the earth shall rise up against him. So as of September this month, 2025, 147 out of the 193 UN member states have recognized the Palestinian state. So that's the overwhelming majority of world nations that have sided with the Palestinian interests, okay, and are condemning what's going on with the small hats. And I said, can you list those nations? And it said, can't list them all. I said, just name a few. So these are the countries that have been in the news that have supporting the Palestinian state. So India, China, Russia, Brazil, South Africa, though, you know, those are the BRICS nations, right? Indonesia, Egypt, Turkey. See, and Turkey is a big deal because Turkey is currently a part of NATO. And we know that Turkey is going to leave NATO at some point according to biblical prophecy. And they're going to, you know, be aligned with the dragons of Arabia and Russia and China and those Eastern kings, okay? That's biblical prophecy. Mexico, Argentina, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, Spain, and Iceland. Okay, you know what I'm saying? These are all, you know, Sweden, Norway, Ireland, Spain, Iceland. These are all EU nations, right? These nations are part of a larger group across Asia, Africa, Latin America, and parts of Europe that support Palestinian statehood, right? So like I said, the majority of the world is against what these small hats are doing, you know? When you go here, it says Israel will respond to Palestinian statehood moves within days. Palestine would endanger our existence. And that's the matter of fact, let's just bring that out, man. What is that? The joy of the hypocrite. I think that's Job 20. Yup, here we go. Zophar says the triumph of the wicked is short. And indeed it is, because these devils are on the way out, man. And their hypocrisy has reached unto the heavens. This is Job 20 and verse 4. It says, knowest thou not this of old, since man was placed upon earth, that the triumphing of the wicked is short, and the joy of the hypocrite but for a moment? Though his excellency mount up to the heavens, and his head reach unto the clouds, representative of his great pride, yet he shall perish forever like his own dung. They which have seen him shall say, where is he? He shall fly away as a dream and shall not be found. Yeah, he shall be chased away as a vision of the night. So these devils' hypocrisy, man, like, check it out. They over here talking about Palestine would endanger our existence. How the hell can Palestine endanger your existence when they don't even have a standing military? They don't have nukes like how the small hats do. So how the hell could they possibly threaten your existence? And they can't. It's all bullshit, man. And this is why the world is calling these devils out. Because they, you know what I'm saying, they some damn hypocrites, man. They're really the ones that are threatening the existence of the people in Palestine. You see, because before them devils got there, they was over there living in peace. Now, we understand it's not the small hats land, nor the Palestinians' land. None of them belong there, and that's why the Lord is going to get both of them out. Both of them heathen nations out of there. But let's just call a spade, man. The terror didn't come to the land until you devils showed up, okay? The tyranny didn't start until the small hat came into rule over in that land. That's why it's so much damn chaos, man. Because you gutter rats, you goddamn devils, man. Everywhere that you go, you bring nothing but pain and suffering and chaos, man. See? Why? Because you're of your father, the devil. All right? And let's get that. You know? Scripture's popping in my head now. Call all y'all Bashmel Shai. Okay, John 8. Now, In context of this, right, we know that Yahweh Shai, he was talking to the wicked Pharisees, but we use it for Esau as well because it's pretty much the same spirit. All right. Let's start at John 8. And matter of fact, we just get straight to the point. John 8 and 40, John 8 and 43. Why do ye not understand my speech? Even because ye cannot hear my word. Ye are of your father the devil, and the lust of your father ye will do. Now again, he was speaking to the wicked scribes and Pharisees. He wasn't saying that they were literally of their father the devil, but you know what I'm saying, pretty much saying that they come in that same spirit. Okay? Because they were aligning their interests with Esau. Okay, which he literally is the serpent seed, Esau. Okay, they were aligning their interests and their views, you know what I'm saying, to pretty much be in a good standing with Esau, but not with Yahweh Bashmi Yahushai. So that's why Yahweh Shai told them to their face that ye are of your father the devil. But again, this also applies to Esau, Edom in these current times and throughout their history. And the lust of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there is no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Okay, and that's these devils, man, because they come in the spirit of Hashatan. Okay, their whole, you know, just the way that they move when they talk. This dude Netanyahu, all he's done since this whole October 7th thing is lie. Okay, that's all that he's done, man. It ain't been no truth coming out of his mouth. Everything is a damn lie. That's why I remember watching that one video where he was standing before the UN Council and he got up to the podium to speak, and everybody just started walking out the room because they didn't want to listen to this devil's lies, man. Because they knew everything that was going to come out of his mouth was some straight bullshit. So they said, man, you know, I ain't trying to listen to this damn devil, man. All right? So this is where the world is at. The world is tired of these devil's lies. And we in that time to where the Lord is really about to silence these damn devils, man, very soon. And we can't wait. All right, let's get another one. Psalms, the 5th chapter. Protection from the wicked. Yeah, and that's what we need, man, because real soon, these devils about to roll on us too, man. You know what I'm saying? So we just pray that the Lord have mercy. Psalm 5 and 6, it says, thou shalt destroy them that speak leasing. Okay, you know, leasing goes into lies, deceits, you know, which is what these devils specialize in. The Lord will abhor the bloody and deceitful man, which is Esau, Edom, the so-called white man. Okay, so hey, man, you know, the Lord about to destroy these damn devils. Okay, because they just they just turning up, man, and there's no end in sight. I mean, he already told you that we don't plan to stop. So what else can you do except rise up against him and stop him? You know, but ultimately we know these devils not going to be stopped until Yahweh Bashmi Yahushai stops them. Okay, because you know they have to play their role in bringing about this third world war and ultimately bringing about mass death upon the earth. You know what I'm saying? So they got to continue with short space until he who letteth will let stops them, which is the Lord. All right. It says, now I want y'all to listen to the hypocrisy of this devil. All right. Ahead of his scheduled speech at the United Nations General Assembly on Friday, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says at his weekly cabinet meeting that Israel will respond to calls to establish a Palestinian state at the Conference of World Leaders in the coming days, calling for a quote-unquote fight against the move, which he says would endanger Israel's existence. At the UN, I will present the truth. Oh, man, you know, and that's why, you know, as we read in Job 20, man, said what the joy of the hypocrite is but for a moment. These devils are talking about, I will present the truth, when we just read in John 8 and 44 that there's no truth in these devils, man. But they talking about truth. Boy, oh boy. This is Israel's truth, but it is also the objective truth in our just struggle. Are y'all hearing this, man? All right, they're calling this war just, you know, that we are justified in wiping them people out in our just struggle against the forces of evil. Now, I ain't gonna like read just reading this, just got my spirit, just turned, because they can really just sit here and just lie like this, man. They can really sit here and just just pull the ultimate gaslight, you know, try to make you believe that, oh, we're victims, we we need people on our side to help us from these dangerous criminals, when in fact they're the criminals. You see, and our vision for real peace through strength. And it's a damn lie, because it ain't gonna be no peace in that land until those rats are rooted out. That's the only way that there's gonna be peace. But as long as they're over there, there will never be peace. All right. As soon as they got there was what? War. Netanyahu says in his opening remarks, reminding cabinet ministers that he will meet with U.S. President DJT following his UN speech. We will also have to fight at the UN and in all other arenas against the false propaganda directed at us and the calls for the establishment of a Palestinian state, which would endanger our existence and constitute an absurd reward for terror. He continues, repeating past remarks that nations recognizing a Palestinian state at the General Assembly are rewarding Hamas's acts of terror against Israel. The international community will hear from us about this in the coming days. After the UN General Assembly, I will meet with my friend, President Trump. This will be the fourth time I meet with him since the beginning of his second term, more than any other world leader. And that's because America is backing these small hats in their war endeavor. Okay? Because you see that EU has kind of distanced themselves from dealing with the small hats. They're not really out there, trying to get involved in that war, man. Although they are involved to a small degree, whether it's, sending weapons or sending intel, but they're not really trying to put ground troops down on the ground over there like that. But America is sending the most money, the most equipment, the most intelligence over there, to aid them devils in what they're doing. And that's why the whole world is also going to come against America. You see, the Lord is setting this thing up. He says, we have a great deal to discuss, he says. Right, that's pretty much the article right there. So, this Gaza war is spiraling out of control. And this is what it's leading to. Right, let's get Jeremiah 49. Jeremiah 49:20. And it says, therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord that he has taken against Edom, and his purposes that he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. Now, when you go into that word, let's see here. Yeah, the least. All right, Strong's H. It's like, there we go. Strong's H. 6810. Let's hear Esau say it.
Strong's H 6810. Tzair. Tzair. Second entry.
Right.
Tzaor. Tzaor. Third entry. Tzair. Tzair.
Right. So then when you go to outline of biblical usage, check it out. Little, insignificant, young, right? Young, younger, youngest. And among the Western powers, Israel is the youngest, most insignificant, and smallest little nation, okay? So you go back, right, to verse 20, right? It says, in fact, start the top again. Therefore, hear the counsel of the Lord that he had taken against Edom, and his purposes that he has purposed against the inhabitants of Teman. Surely the least of the flock, the youngest of the flock, the smallest of the flock, shall draw them out. And that's what these devils are doing. You know what I'm saying? They're drawing out these larger nations to war. Okay, every nation that recognizes Palestinian statehood, they have an evil eye toward the small hats, and that's the majority of the nations upon the earth, right? So they're being drawn out to war. Surely he shall make their habitations desolate with them. You see? So that, you know what I'm saying, that's these devils' role in these last days, to draw out these nations to the final world's war. All right, and when you get Second Ezra's, let's go to 16. All right, Second Ezra 16. In verse 17, it says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? The beginning of sorrows and great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars and powers, and the powers shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils, what shall I do when these evils shall come? Behold, famine and plague, tribulation and anguish are sent as scourges for amendment. Okay, so this is the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, and the powers, all right, are in fear. Okay, and all these wars that are ongoing, I mean, you have multiple wars going on right now. Venezuela and Babylon is currently at war right now. You know what I'm saying? You got NATO and the EU that's in Ukraine, you know, and now they talking about Putin, you know what I'm saying, because there was a conflict with Poland that happened just a few days ago. And now they're talking about Article 4, you know, which is the precursor to Article 5. You know what I'm saying? So things are heating up over there in, you know, Western Asia, you know, so-called Europe, you know. You got the small hats, you know, over there in Gaza. Then you got the Taiwan, Babylon, you know what I'm saying? Because America is also over there in Taiwan as well. You know what I'm saying? Which that conflict could pop off any day now, you know, but it's just so much going on that is, you know, really hard to keep up with, you know. It's really hard to keep up with, man, because, you know, it's like every day is just something new. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't even get to process one event and then something else pops off, you know, so it's just all over the place. But that's the theme of the times, man. Prophecy being fulfilled at an all-time high, and this world is rapidly passing away. You see? So, you know, just as our Lord Yahweh Shah said, you know, in the last days, the nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, you know. And also, let's get that, the third woe. So, third woe. Yeah, man, because the third woe coming quickly. And that third woe, the third world destruction goes into WW3, Revelation 11 and 14. The second woe was past, World War II. And behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Okay? And we know that we close to this happening because they about to roll out the MOTB. And we already see that these nations are posturing themselves to be in a global conflict. You see what I'm saying? So we definitely in those times, you know, and the rhetoric from these small hats coming out is only egging things on to get worse, because they're not being humble about a situation. They don't have surrender or defeat in their vocabulary. Okay, they're going to continue on as the Lord wants them to until they ultimately get their ass destroyed, man. So we just got to keep watching, you know, keep staying locked in the prophecy. And, you know, may Yahweh Bashmir Shai have mercy upon his elect, man. So, you know, I'm going to go ahead and close out right here. Lord willing, this lesson is edifying through Rakah Kadash, called Allah Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kadash. And until next time, Lord willing, Shalom to the elect, Kodash Allah, Wa Bible Ball.